All right, we're going to try another flipped lesson. So this is 1.5 using the Pythagorean theorem. So go ahead and write this in the notebook. Remember again, I don't expect that you know everything perfectly. We'll practice during class. This is just to give you a basic understanding or a reminder of the Pythagorean theorem and how to use it. Also copy down the picture that you see on the right-hand side of your screen. So it looks like we have one leg and the hypotenuse. So let's see what we need to do. We need to find that missing length. So the first thing I'm going to do is write down my equation. And then I'm going to plug in what I know, or substitute what I know. So I don't know what a squared is, but I know b squared, and that equals c squared. So I now will simplify. So that means I want to subtract 144 from each side of my equation using my algebra. And that gives me 25. Okay, and then what's the square root of 25 is 5. So just a reminder to simplify, right? I want to get rid of this 144, so I'm going to subtract that from both sides. And actually, I want to see that in your notebook, that you subtracted 144 from both sides. And then we get a squared equals 25. And then I'm going to take the square root of a squared and the square root of 25, and then I know a is 5 centimeters. So if you need to pause the video. When you're ready to move on, go ahead and move on. Okay, so now you're going to try this. So you should see a text box on the right. You can't move on until you enter in an answer. So copy this down. Maybe I would definitely draw the picture, write down my formula, substitute, just like we just did in the notes. And then I should see this in your notebook, and I should see an answer in the text box on the right. You definitely need to pause the video. On this, it's okay if you use a calculator to get those squared and square roots, because these aren't perfect ones. So go ahead and use a calculator if you need to. Okay, so this is how I answered the question. So go ahead and check your work. If you need to, make corrections in your notebook so that you have the correct method. If there's something you have a question on, you can just put a little star on that and then come up with your question, like where'd you get the 20.2 from? So go ahead and write down those questions. If you need to pause the video, pause the video. When you're ready to move on, go ahead and move on. Okay, here's another example. Example 2, word problem. Definitely draw the picture that you see on the right. Write all this down. Again, if you need to pause the video, go ahead and pause the video. So, the bottom of a 10-foot ladder, so you can see the picture of my ladder, is 2.5 feet from the side of the wall. So that's one of my bases. How far to the nearest tenth is the top of the ladder from the ground? So we're trying to find that question mark. So write all that down. So again, I wrote down my formula. I substituted in what I knew, and then I actually did 2.5 squared, and I got 6.25, and 10 squared was 100. Now remember, to solve this, I want to subtract 6.25 from each side. So I would get 93.75. Take the square root of each of those, and I get 9.7. Now I was bad, and I should have shown the minus 6.25 from each side, so please put that in your notes. So that's there. So remember, you're telling me a story. So the story says, this is my formula, I plugged this in, then I squared both of those numbers, then I subtracted, then I got a number, took the square root of both sides, and I got 9.7 feet. So go ahead and write all that down. If you need to pause the video, pause the video. When you're ready to move on, go ahead and move on. Okay, last slide, last question. So looking at the house, what is the distance from the ground to the roof? So there should be a text box on the right. You're going to write down your answer. Okay, now that you have an answer, we're going to check. So here's my answer. So again, I wrote down my formula. I substituted in what I had information on. I squared both of those. And I am not sure what happened there, but it looks like I should have subtracted 25 from each side, and I got 299, not 0.29. And then if I take the square root of each side, so I then took the square root of each side, I used my handy dandy calculator, and I got 17.3 feet. So go ahead and make any corrections you need to. The last text box on the right just asks you, do you have any questions? What do you need help with? So we're going to try some more of these in class, so don't worry. We're going to practice the hard stuff in class. Make sure you have a calculator.